Hey, Phil.
You're up. So, what's the best advice you ever got, Christy?
Oh my gosh. The best advice I ever got was someone told me to do the work that you love doing so much that you would do it for free, but that you're so good at it that people want to pay you to do it. And I have kept that philosophy throughout my entire career, business. And if you don't love what you're doing, it reflects and it shows and it never works out.
Who
So,
told you that? When did you get that? How soon in your career were you?
oh my gosh, I was probably 10 years into my career and I met a gentleman who did project management training. He had been in the military. He was probably, by the time I met him, he was in his 60s. And he just said, "Hey kid," I was 30 years old. He's like, "Hey kid, here's what it comes down to when you pick the work that you do, whatever that is. I don't care what it is." He said, "Do something that you love so much that you would do it for free and you wake up every single day and you're just jazzed about doing it, but that you're so good at it that people want to pay you to do it." And I was like, wow, okay, that's what I'll do.
So, you
So,
found that right away? I mean, was that really easy for you? Or talk to me about that.
no, I did not find that right away. So I graduated from college. I like to say that I had this path. It's almost like an arranged marriage, but it was an arranged career. In that, by the time I was about 10 years old, I'm an only child. My parents sort of laid out this plan, right? And that was I was going to go to college. I was the first one on both sides of my family, first generation to go to college. I was going to graduate. I was going to get this amazing job in corporate life, and then the rest would be history, right? And it didn't work out that way. I mean, I followed the plan completely, and 10 years into corporate life, I hated it. I started my career in sales and then moved into the corporate office, and I was heading up a sales training program for brand new college graduates. And then I sort of moved into management and leadership. And 10 years into that life, I was burned out. I was exhausted. I didn't have a life. I loved what I did, but I didn't love where I did it. And I was standing in Wichita, Kansas in January. That's never the place to go in January. And I asked a group of 35 managers, what they did outside of work for fun. And while they were introducing themselves and going around telling me about their hobbies and their fun, I had this epiphany that just descended on me like this black veil. And I was like, I have nothing to share. I have nothing to share that I do for fun, because I would leave on Mondays, come home on Fridays, unpack, repack, spend a little time with my husband because we were newly married, and I would leave again on Mondays. And I was like, something has to change. So I went back to work, and I had a meeting with my manager, and I was like, "Hey, this is my epiphany." And I said, "I need more work-life balance." And he said, "There is no." And I was like, wow, like basically this is what you've signed up for. And so I went home and I told my husband, and my husband's like, "Why don't you become a consultant?" And I was like, do people do that? Like, can I just do that? And 6 months later, I put the plan together. And 6 months later, I left corporate life. All my friends thought I was crazy. It came with tremendous guilt that I felt like I had this amazing life and things that my parents and my family would have wanted. And yet I was throwing it all away, right, to go chase some dream. And people would say, "What happens if you fail?" And I said, the worst thing that could ever happen is I go back and get another job. That really was my backup plan. And that was 20 years ago. I said, if it stopped being fun or I stopped making money, I would go back. And I have not done that yet. So far it's worked out for me.
Wow. So, you never bounced back into corporate?
I didn't. But you know what I did was I came out of corporate and immediately started working with corporations. So I felt like I was back in corporate, except on my terms. That's what I wanted, right? I mean, it wasn't about the money. It was about the flexibility and the freedom to pick and choose what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, and to have the freedom to say no. That was really what I wanted, and why I started a consulting business. Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
I
That's
know.
awesome. Good for you.
Yeah,
That's really
thanks.
good. Yeah, no, that's super cool. But I think one of the things that resonated with me that you said there is it was where you were doing it, and but yet you talked about your boss. So, do you really think it was where you were doing it or who you were doing it for?
I think probably a little of both. At the time, I worked with all males. I worked with all males, and I was the only woman. And, I was expected, because I was newly married and I had no children, I was expected to do all of the travel. because I didn't have a family, right? And I say that 20 years ago, lots of things have changed in the last 20 years, but that's how it was seen and reflected in that I did not have a family. And so therefore I should step up to the plate and I should do this. And it was a tremendous burden. And I'll say this, I did a lot of it to myself. So I had moved from sales into the sales training role. I wanted to prove myself. I wanted to make my mark. I went to get all the certifications. I was a certification junkie. It really became my sense of security that if I knew more, was certified in more, could do more, it assured me a job. And I think that we do that when we're in corporate life, right? We're always trying to build up so that they can't get rid of us. And finally, after 4 years in this job, I was like, I don't know that I want this life anymore. Like I looked at where my job would be going, and it was either on the human resources track or I could leave and get back into sales management. And neither of that felt good to me. I loved developing people. I loved helping people get out of their own way and showing them the possibility of what they could do with their life, with their career, with their sales territory. I loved doing that. And so neither one felt like a good path for me. And I didn't really see a path. And I was like, I'm going to blaze my own path. That's what I'm going to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I dig that. And I think that's so true for so many of us, that if the path isn't there, we have an opportunity there to blaze it ourselves. And one of the things you said in kind of the pre-interview stuff is you said that everything you want is on the other side of selling yourself. And I'm curious if you mean like selling yourself that you can do it, or do you mean selling yourself like actually selling yourself, or do you mean both?
Yeah, it's both. I mean, I've seen that. So, I talk about I had this very successful sales career before I moved into the corporate office. And I won sales awards. I was moved to 3 different locations around the country. I moved to Dallas and Memphis, Tennessee, then Portland, Oregon. So I had this amazing career that really stretched over the country. It wasn't just one location. And yet, when I came out into my own business, I struggled with selling myself. I struggled with what was my value, how to articulate, my unique selling proposition. Why would they choose me over somebody else, right? So here I had this background of selling, which you would think, oh, you know what to do. But when you're selling for a large organization and that brand that's recognized, it's so much easier to walk in and say, hi, I'm Christy Metcalf and I work for so-and-so. It sort of opens that door of credibility, where when you're on your own, you're out there knocking on doors, meeting people. They have no idea, right? CEO Learning Systems, like, who's that? What do they do? Did they just start yesterday? And I talk about this whole imposter syndrome a lot because every time I did a tax return, my quarterly tax return, you'd sign it at the bottom and you'd put your title. And my title was president. And I always struggled with that. I felt like probably for the first 3 years, the IRS was going to reach out and say, stop it, right? You're not a president, stop signing your tax returns that way. And it always felt like I was living in this world that I didn't belong in. And so I'm really passionate about helping those people who work in the corporate world, who transition into business ownership, really learn how to sell. It's, many times they see it as sleazy or manipulative or slimy. It's not any of that, right? It's really helping them achieve what they ultimately want to achieve, or a problem that they want to solve. And so it begins first in your own mindset, right? I actually recommend this book to my clients, and it's called The Accidental Salesperson. And the author talks about there is none of us that probably envision going into sales as a career, right? No 8-year-old dresses up like a salesperson on Halloween. They dress up as astronauts and police officers and firefighters and princesses, not a salesperson. And so we accidentally fall into this role. And if you're a business owner, then your number one role is a salesperson, right? You are the person that is going to bring in the money to your business. And it's the oxygen of any business, whether small or large. So I think you have to mentally accept that. This is part of my role. Then the second part of that is anything you want is on the other side of selling. And I take selling, not just selling a business and a product, but a much bigger view of it, as in, you have to sell yourself to get into a college or university. You have to sell yourself to land a job. You have to sell yourself in order to get a promotion, to get married, to date, to meet a partner. Anything in life is about selling yourself. And if you can't do that and you can't do that well, then you will never achieve or have what you ultimately want to do.
Wow. Yeah. For sure, right? I mean
Yeah.
that's so obvious when you say it out loud, but yet it's
Yeah.
so often overlooked. So let's break this apart here. Let's find out, how do we do that. So what's the first step, Christy? Like, what do people need to do if they're getting started? Right? Okay, yep, I'm in. I'm going to do this. Now
Right.
what?
Yep. Yeah, the first piece of it is to truly accept that your role is in sales. And so many of the clients that come to work with me, they've invested thousands of dollars in Facebook ads. They have, set on social media. They've done that whole thing, right? And I talk about there's a difference between having a digital business and a digital presence, right? A digital presence is we all need it because the web is not going away. And it's the first thing that the potential clients go and see if you're credible. There's so much noise and garbage out there in the world like that. That gives you a credible feel and look. So the professionalism has to be there. But a digital business is totally something different. Amazon has a digital business. We go on to their website, we make purchases, it's delivered. But most of the time, we're not doing a digital business. We're actually a relationship business, right? And when we are in a relationship business, then that requires that we build the know, like, and trust with our clients in order for them to exchange money for a service or a product, right? And so I had a client recently. I've been working with her for 100 days. I have this program called the 100-Day Profit Accelerator, and it really is to help small business owners learn how to take the sleaze and the slime out of selling and generate or double their revenue in 100 days without social media ads, without living on social media, without buying expensive platforms. And so this client who's currently in it, she says to me, right, 100 days, almost 100 days ago, we finish next Tuesday. She says to me, I'm thinking about investing $10,000 in Facebook ads. This was back in August. And I said, please don't do that. She's only been in business 10 months. I said, don't do it. You don't have the following. Like, you have to be really clear on what social media is going to do for you at this point, what it's not going to do. What is your ultimate goal? And she said, my ultimate goal is to make money. End of story. And I said, I encourage you to not invest there and to come and work with me for 100 days. And so when we started working together, I think the first, you asked, like, what do you do, right? The mindset has to be there that I am going to sell. But the second piece is you have to be really clear on what it is that you want. And I think that most people aren't clear about what they want. So I have them go through this exercise of really defining, goals in 4 areas. Physical, because I think being a business owner is all about being holistic. So physical goals, love goals, leadership goals, and business goals. And on her business goal, she determined in 100 days she wanted to sell 15. She wanted to make $15,000. That was her goal. And next week we end the 100 days, and she has made $70,000.
Woo!
I know, right? And I like to say, I'm not a magician. I didn't do anything, but I asked her last week, I was like, what made the difference? And she said, mindset. It was all around mindset, in that she was looking at it one way and working with somebody else that had a different lens on opened it another way. So the things that we did in the 100 days, we got really clear about who her client was. She was all over the map about who she wanted to work with and who she was serving. And so we got really clear about that. We got very clear about where her people could come from in her pipeline. So she was thinking, she was out looking at doing business to consumer. So she was trying to get that one person to say yes to her. She had come out of a corporate job. She was an executive. She's actually trying to help other women get to the executive ranks. And I just asked the question of, well, your target audience is sitting in corporate America and you have all of these connections in corporate. Why not use them as your pipeline? And she was like, oh. So she dug in and started networking again with her senior HR people, presenting it as, you don't have the capacity and the manpower to really mentor these women. Let me do that for you. And as soon as she said that, doors started opening. So I think part of it is knowing who your ideal client is, knowing the problem that you solve, where are your clients hanging out, and then who can you get in front of and meet to really initiate those introductions. And I don't like to call them referrals, I call them introductions, because referrals implies that I'm going to introduce you to Phil and he's going to buy from you, which is so much pressure on me and Phil to refer somebody to you. But an introduction is merely, I'd love to introduce you to Phil. He's in my network. He's a great person and human being. You like to meet great people. And then Phil and I get to meet each other, connect, and learn about what each other does. And then that broadens our network. So it's not the salesy, slimy, sleazy. It's truly just growing our network by introducing each other to good people. And when you become really clear on that and you know exactly what you're looking for in your message and how you help people, it sort of does the work by itself.
Wow. Wow. That's simple, right? So we get clear on what we want. We get clear on who we want to talk to and get clear on where those people are coming from. That's pretty strong, right? That's pretty strong. And I like your distinction there on introduction versus referral, because I do see that. I think for me, referral is just we've actually transacted business before, and I'm basically standing behind you and saying, hey, Christy's great because I've worked with her.
Right.
An introduction is really Christy's a great person, and then a name drop. Hey, I know Christy, and so do you. Right. That's how I tee those up. So I think that's really interesting. So, but you said mindset, and that's so interesting to me, because every time I do training, the people, they're like, we don't need any mindset training. That's stupid. And it's like, no, honestly, the only thing you probably need is mindset training. You've probably gotten sales training. You've probably gotten closing training. You know how to do a proposal. So why are we so resistant to the mindset training if it unlocks the rest of this?
Yeah, I just said to someone this weekend, and I think this kind of clarifies it. So she was asking, what kind of mindset work is out there, and could she dig into it? And I said, yes, there's tons of mindset work out there. Like, we are not short on information in this world anymore, right? Information is at our fingertips. What we're short on is the execution of it, though. And I think the one thing that has made the difference in this program that I've taken these women through is that the weekly accountability. And so I give them the tools, but then if they're not implementing and applying them, then the question is why? Why, right? And then that's where the mindset comes down. And I shared with her this weekend, I said, mindset is as much a part of you. Your mindset is as much a part of you as your eyes, your nose, and your ears are, right? Like, you don't even see the blind spots or the limitations because they become such a part of you and who you are, that's how you operate. You don't see a difference. But when you work with somebody else and they're like, wait, why aren't you picking up the phone to call? Like, I talk about a lack of belief. And that's what I see in people when it comes to putting themselves out there and selling. But my clients will say, this is how I know that they have a lack of belief and mindset issues, is they'll say, I don't know how. I don't know how, Christy. And I'm like, so I was on the phone one day and I said, what do you mean you don't know how? Well, I don't know how. And I was like, well, first you pick up the phone, then you dial the number, then you ask for the individual, like, which part of that don't you know how? And so they circle and spiral around, I don't know how. Like, there's some magic solution out there. And sales is something like riding a bike. You can watch videos, you can read books, but until you get on the bike and it's shaky and wobbly and you fall down and you get back up and you do it again and you do it again, that's the way sales is going to be. And I had a client that I was on a coaching call with her last week, and she is not hitting her goals. And I said, okay, tell me somebody that you work with who is hitting goals like you want, and what are they doing differently? And she said to me, well, I do work with this guy and he's hitting his goals, but he's just a better salesperson. And I said, no, he's not a better salesperson. He's just selling. You're not. You're afraid to pick up the phone. You're afraid to ask, people for introductions. You're afraid to show up. You're afraid to put your business out there. You're afraid to tell people what you do. If you are unwilling to do that, then you'll never sell anything. And I said, I need to know where that's coming from. Right. And I just paused and let her sit with it. And, it took her a couple minutes. And then she said, I'm scared of being rejected. And I said, rejection is just part of the process, right? Commit to the outcome, not to the process. If I were giving you $100 per no or per rejection, you'd be like, woo, bring it. But I literally said to her, the no is just a word. You're making it into something else. Like you're making the no bigger than it is. No, okay, keep going. But no, I said, tell me what no means to you. And she says that I'm not good enough, that I'm not smart enough, that I'm not capable enough. That's where the mindset comes out, right? Oh, okay. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means they didn't like your proposal. It wasn't the right time. You're not the right fit. There's somebody else out there. Like, keep going. And then she was like, oh. So this week, we just had her call this morning and she was like, I appreciated your honesty last week. And I said, I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't honest, right? I want you to be successful. And every single person that I work with has everything they need to be successful. I was actually telling her this morning that I love acorns. I'm totally fascinated with acorns because inside acorns are little oak trees just waiting to sprout. Like everything that an oak tree needs to be a mighty oak is all wrapped up in an acorn. And I feel like we are that exact same way, right? Everything we need to be successful in life, in business, whatever, we already have it inside of us. We just have to let it grow.
Wow. That's awesome. And that's inspiring. And that's good stuff for folks to take home, right? Be the acorn and recognize that you are the acorn and that you have that deep inside of you. So, Christy, if you had one more thing that you wanted to leave people with, one more bit of truth, if you will, that you've seen from all of your coaching and all the awesome work that you've done, what would it be?
Wow. I would say just to believe in yourself, right? Anything is possible if you truly believe it's possible. And if you believe it's possible, you will find ways to open doors, move mountains. If you truly believe that it's possible and you don't allow that nasty demon in your brain to take over, you will find a way. Like anything is possible and you can find a way, but we default into listening to why you? Why would you be the one to do it? And I just see it come out over and over. Anybody who's been successful in life and in business, they're not special. They just kept doing it. And you have that special gift too. And the one thing that I guess I would truly leave with is, your thumbprint, your fingerprint is truly unique. No one else on this planet, 7.5 billion people on this planet, you were the only one with that thumbprint. And that is for a reason and a purpose. And so show up like you are special and you believe that you're here for that purpose.
Awesome. Awesome. Anything is possible, friends. And show up. Believe in yourself because you have a special purpose. And then keep doing it. You said that too. So that's really... Yeah. Keep being consistent. So, Christy, if people want to connect with you and they want more of this awesome stuff that you shared today, where would they go? How would you like them to connect with you?
Find me on LinkedIn, Christy Metcalf, CEO Learning Systems. I put videos out there, content out there. Reach out to me. Tell me what you're struggling with. Tell me if you're not making money. I love that. I have a client that refers to me as her money guru. And I really do love people making money because when they see they can do it, it gets them excited and confidence grows. And then they make more of it. And when you make more money, money's not a bad thing. You change the world. That's what I believe.
There you go. So find Christy Metcalf on LinkedIn, check out CEO Learning Systems, and get to know her. Christy, we connected because of Deb Coviello, and I'm super grateful for that. And I'm super grateful that when I wished you a happy birthday a couple weeks ago, even though it wasn't your birthday, you still played with me and you hung with me. So I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much for sharing some awesome stuff today. You're the best.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciated it.
My pleasure.